Urusei Yatsura Reborn, Episode 15, A Dream Come True, The Worst Nightmare. Morning had finally arrived at the Moroboshi household. The first rays of sunlight slipped through the bedroom window, and beneath the futon, 3 people lay perfectly still. Ataru, Shinobu, and Lum stared at one another in silence, each wondering who would be brave enough to get up first. Finally, Shinobu broke the silence. "Can anyone see my bra?" Ataru glanced around. "Wait, I think it's here." He reached beneath the futon and rummaged around for a few seconds. "Here you go." "Thanks." But just as Ataru was about to hand it to her, Lum reached out, took the garment, and passed it to Shinobu. "Here. Thanks." Silence returned. The 3 of them were so embarrassed that none dared be the first to crawl out from beneath the futon. A little while later, in the dining room, Ataru's parents stared at the scene with their mouths hanging open. Ataru, Shinobu, and Lum slowly descended the stairs. All 3 looked thoroughly embarrassed. Without saying a word, they took their seats and continued eating the breakfast Mrs. Moroboshi had prepared. The only sound in the room was the quiet clinking of utensils. One ate, another stared at the floor. The third pretended to be completely absorbed in their plate, until Mrs. Moroboshi finally snapped. She slammed both hands onto the table. "Can someone explain exactly what happened up there?" The 3 exchanged nervous glances. Shinobu slowly raised a hand. "Mrs. Moroboshi, I can No," Lum interrupted. "Let me explain." The Oni calmly turned toward Ataru's mother. "What happened last night is completely normal on my planet." Mrs. Moroboshi slammed her hands against the table again. The utensils jumped. "But not here." The 3 immediately fell silent. Lum thought for a moment. "Well, this is going to be a little awkward to explain." She looked at Ataru's parents. "But it's better that you know now." Then, with a playful and provocative smile, she wrapped her arms around Ataru. He remained completely rigid, his face frozen in horror. "From this moment on, Ataru is my boyfriend." "What?" The exclamation came from everyone at once. Ataru's father grabbed his head with both hands. "How am I ever going to finish paying the mortgage?" Lum continued as if nothing unusual had happened. "Also, I'll have to come live here with my boyfriend." "What?" "What happened last night means we have to become engaged. It's the only way to prevent a conflict between our peoples." She paused. "If we don't, it would be considered an insult on my planet and a declaration of war." Ataru's father began to cry. "This can't be happening." He clutched his head in despair. "I don't have enough money to support another person. Now we'll have to pay for a wedding. And this girl is going to move in with us." He turned toward his son. "Ataru, you're going to have to get a job." Ataru went pale. "What? Get a job?" "No." He grabbed his head. "Good grief, I'm still a student. I have my whole life ahead of me." He shook his head in disbelief. "I can't get married and work at the same time." Shinobu slammed her hands onto the table. "That's unacceptable." She immediately wrapped her arms around Ataru, pulling him away from Lum. Everyone turned toward her. "Ataru can't marry you. He's already engaged to me." Lum raised an eyebrow. "Oh, really?" Everyone witnessed it. "He declared his intention to marry me in front of the cameras when the competition ended." Shinobu gave Lum a defiant look. "You can't interfere now," Lum answered calmly. "What happened between us invalidates that engagement." "What?" Shinobu stared at her in horror. Lum smiled. "And, by the way, what happened last night also means Shinobu and I are engaged." Lum gave her a mischievous smile. Shinobu froze. "No, you wouldn't dare tell them." "Why not? There's nothing wrong with it on my planet." Shinobu clenched her teeth. "But there is here. We're not on your planet, alien." Lum stared directly at her. "That's not what you were telling me that night." "Shut up! Shut up!" The 2 girls immediately started arguing again. Mrs. Moroboshi slammed her hands onto the table once more. "Enough!" Everyone fell silent. "Let's put an end to this right now. We have much more important problems to deal with." Mrs. Moroboshi took a deep breath. "First of all, none of this can leave this house." She shook her head. "I can already imagine the scandal among the neighbors. We're already having enough trouble because of what happened at that ridiculous tournament. Imagine what will happen now." She shuddered. "I don't even want to think about it. Then she looked at Ataru. You'll probably be expelled from school. Her attention shifted to Lum. And secondly, young lady, you cannot move in here. Lum blinked. Why? Because, with any luck, we barely have enough money to support my useless son. Ataru looked up. Mom, and certainly not enough to feed another mouth. Lum smiled. Don't worry, Mrs. Moroboshi. I have plenty of money. Ataru's parents exchanged a glance. Plenty of money? Exactly. Lum reached into her bra. After rummaging around for a few seconds, she pulled out a small sack and placed it on the table. I think this should be enough. Mrs. Moroboshi opened the sack. She looked inside. Then she looked at Lum. Beans. Yes, but they're only seeds. Lum picked one up. They're very valuable on my planet. Mrs. Moroboshi frowned. She slammed her hand onto the table, scattering the seeds across its surface. They're absolutely worthless here. Lum looked genuinely surprised. Then what is valuable here? Money. Money? Shinobu joined in. You don't have money on your planet? No. Lum shrugged. We pay for everything with beans. Mrs. Moroboshi pulled a 20-yen bill from her clothing. This is money. Lum studied it curiously. With this, you pay for food, bills, everything. Lum took the bill. Her eyes lit up. Oh, then I can make lots of these. Mrs. Moroboshi immediately snatched it away. You can't. Why? Because that would be counterfeiting, and it's a crime. Lum crossed her arms. What ridiculous rules you have in this world. Ataru's father intervened. Money is earned by working. He looked at his son. How is Ataru going to manage from now on? Ataru started crying again. I don't want to work. Money is valuable, his father continued, just like gold, silver, and jewels. Lum looked up. Gold? Exactly. The metal. Yes, Lum smiled. Oh, she stood up. I have lots of that in my flying saucer. Before anyone could answer, Lum shot out the door. Her flying saucer rose above the rooftops of Tomobiki. A few minutes later, she returned. The door opened, and Lum walked in carrying several small gold bars. She placed them on the table. The bars landed with a bright metallic clink. Everyone froze. Mrs. Moroboshi picked one up. What's this? Lum smiled. Gold, she casually continued. On my world, as throughout the rest of the galaxy, we use it for all sorts of things. It's real. Ataru's father picked up another bar. As a bank employee, he knew exactly how to recognize genuine gold. He examined it carefully. His expression changed. It's authentic. He looked at it again, and it's extraordinarily pure. Mrs. Moroboshi's eyes widened. How much is all this worth? Ataru's father quickly calculated the value in his head. With this, he looked at his wife, we could pay off the mortgage. Mrs. Moroboshi picked up another bar. Her eyes began to sparkle. Not just the mortgage. She looked around the house. We could replace the kitchen. She picked up another. Buy a color television. Another. Even remodel the house. She turned toward her husband. Darling, we could finally afford those vacations we've been putting off. The two embraced, each still clutching a gold bar. Lum smiled. Mrs. Moroboshi placed her bar on the table, walked over to Lum, and took her hands. Daughter? Lum blinked. Welcome to our family. Ataru's father approached as well. Welcome. The two of them embraced Lum. The Oni was absolutely delighted. Thank you, parents. Ataru stared at them in disbelief. Mom? Dad? They continued hugging Lum. Ataru threw up his arms. How can you do this? Shinobu was equally outraged. Mrs. Moroboshi, how can you sell your own son for a few gold bars? Ataru folded his arms. What's so surprising about that? He looked at his parents. Knowing them, they would have sold me for a cow if someone had offered one. Shinobu took a deep breath and looked at Lum. If Lum is moving in here, I'm not giving up on Ataru either. Everyone turned toward her. He was engaged to me before he was engaged to you. Shinobu raised her chin. I'm moving in here too. But Ataru's parents were no longer listening. They were completely absorbed in the gold. They weighed the bars, examined them, felt their surfaces, and carefully arranged them across the table. Mrs. Moroboshi was smiling more than Ataru had ever seen her smile. Of course, dear. Whatever you want. Shinobu stared at her in disbelief. Really? Do whatever you want. Mrs. Moroboshi returned her attention to the gold. Just look at how they shine. Ataru's father sighed happily. Our financial problems are over. Shinobu stared at the entire family. Finally, she realized there was no point arguing. Then I'll go home, get my things, and explain everything to my parents. She paused at the door. Besides, they already accepted our engagement after the competition. Shinobu left the house. A short while later, the Moroboshi household fell silent once again. Lum had returned to her flying saucer to collect her belongings. Shinobu had gone back to her own house to do the same. Ataru, meanwhile, had no intention of sitting quietly. He paced back and forth across his room like a lion trapped in a cage. This is my worst nightmare. He grabbed his head. These girls are going to make my life impossible. He kept pacing. They'll never leave me alone. They won't give me a moment's peace. He stopped. They won't let me go out with other girls. Another thought occurred to him. I won't even be able to go to the park and meet new women. He started pacing again. Much less flirt with them. His face filled with despair. My life is over. He dropped onto his bed. My youth is over. Then suddenly, he sat upright. He looked toward his bookshelf. There has to be a solution. Ataru began pulling books from the shelves. Laws. He grabbed another. Civil Code. He opened it and started flipping through the pages. This has to be illegal. He turned another page. If I can prove this is illegal, I can convince them they can't force me to live with them. He kept reading. Slowly, hope gave way to frustration. As Ataru examined the book, he read some of the laws printed on its pages. It is prohibited to throw octopuses during hockey games. Another page. It is illegal to ride in a taxi if you have the plague. Another. It is forbidden to transport a corpse or a rabid dog. Another. Every person must bathe at least once a year. Another. It is illegal to applaud in a cemetery. Another. It is forbidden to tie a giraffe to a lamppost or telephone pole. Another. Single women are prohibited from skydiving on Sundays. Ataru stared at the book in disbelief. There are stupid laws for everything, except preserving my freedom. Damn it! He slammed the book shut and threw the civil code against the wall. The book struck the wall and dropped heavily to the floor. Ataru put both hands on his head. I have to come up with something. He resumed pacing. What if I pretend to be insane? He stopped. No, he thought again. Some kind of illness. He shook his head. No, that won't work either. Suddenly he stopped. His eyes lit up. My neighbors. A smile slowly spread across his face. That's it. He raised one finger. My mother has always been terribly concerned about what other people think. Ataru grinned. If I can convince her that the entire neighborhood is going to talk about us, she'll force those two to leave herself. His smile grew wider. A little while later, Ataru found his mother in the bedroom. Mrs. Moroboshi was getting ready to leave. Several of the gold bars Lum had brought that morning were lying on the table. Ataru's father was already dressed and ready to accompany her to the bank. Where are you going, Mom? To the bank. His mother picked up her handbag. We have to get these gold bars appraised and deposit the money. Ataru looked at the gold. Do you want us to bring you anything when we get back from downtown? No, I'm fine. Ataru hesitated. Actually, I wanted to ask you something. What? Ataru put on a concerned expression. What do you think the neighbors are going to say when they find out that the Moroboshi boy is living with two girls? His mother looked at him. Two girls? Shinobu. Ataru raised a finger. And that alien girl. His mother listened. Surely your friends will never speak to you again. He paused dramatically. And when this gets out at school, they'll probably expel me. Mrs. Moroboshi remained silent for several seconds. Then she picked up two of the gold bars from the table and held them up in front of Ataru. I couldn't care less what the entire neighborhood thinks about what my stupid son is doing. Ataru froze. What? His mother smiled as she admired the gold. With this, our future is secured. She looked back at Ataru. What difference does it make what people say? Ataru opened his mouth. But what about school? His mother placed the gold bars back on the table. Talk about karma. She sighed. I have to explain everything to my stupid son. You probably haven't realized it yet, but you and Shinobu are now the official boyfriends of an alien princess who practically owns half the galaxy. She gestured toward the gold. She uses gold bars to hold doors open or as paperweights. And you're worried about school? She shook her head. Do you even understand why people go to school? To learn. She stared at him. My. You really did turn out stupid. People go to school to get a piece of paper, and then they go to work. Just like your poor father. For some reason known only to Providence, you were born lucky enough to be a fool. Now that girl is willing to pay for our entire life. She leaned closer. Do you understand what that means? Forget about school. And I seriously doubt that idiot principal would want to expel either of you, especially not Shinobu, who is his star student. And certainly not an alien princess who could eventually unleash a war between two worlds. So stop talking nonsense. Ataru slowly lowered his head. His plan had just died right in front of him. Don't be ridiculous, his mother continued. If you want to find an excuse to escape from all this, then just be honest with them. Ataru said nothing. Be honest with them? For a moment, he imagined Lum and Shinobu's reactions. His face went pale. He crossed his arms and thought to himself, if I tell them the truth, they might actually kill me. He stared at the floor in complete defeat. Just then, his father entered the room. Ready to go? Yes. Mr. Moroboshi picked up his wife's coat and helped her put it over her shoulders. Let's go before the bank closes. Mrs. Moroboshi picked up her handbag. See you later. Ataru's father smiled at his wife. You look lovely, dear. She smiled. Let's go. The two left the house. The door closed behind them. Ataru was left completely alone in the bedroom. He looked once more at the law book lying on the floor, then he toward the door. I'm doomed. When his parents had finally left for the bank, Ataru remained motionless for several seconds. He looked toward the door, then at the law book on the floor. He sighed. I need to think. He grabbed his jacket and left the house. Ataru walked through the park with his hands in his pockets. He was so absorbed in his thoughts that he barely noticed several very attractive girls running past him as they exercised. Normally, there was no chance Ataru would let an opportunity like that pass. But this time, he didn't even see them. Gee. He walked a few more steps. Lum is very beautiful. His expression grew even more troubled. And Shinobu is too. He put a hand to his head. This could be any man's dream. He sighed. But what's going to happen to my life? He kept walking. Now the two of them are going to control absolutely everything I do. He looked up at the sky. Forget about other girls. He lowered his gaze. I won't even be able to go to the park and meet someone. Another sigh. I'm doomed. After a few seconds, another thought occurred to him. And how am I going to explain all this at school? He thought for a moment. Well, at least I won't have to work for now. A small smile appeared, then vanished. How horrible. He grabbed his head with both hands. How horrible. How horrible. How horrible. He continued walking. I don't want to hurt Shinobu either. His expression became serious. After everything we've been through, he paused. But I don't want to be responsible for an interplanetary war either. Suddenly he stopped. His eyes widened. An idea had struck him like a bolt of lightning. Of course, he looked ahead. They can't even stand the sight of each other. A smile began to spread across his face. Maybe. He slowly raised one finger. Maybe once they realize what they've decided, they'll start fighting over me. His smile grew wider. They'll turn against each other. He started walking again, growing more animated with every step. And then they'll discover that they can't live together. That they hate each other too much. That coexistence is impossible. Ataru began gesturing excitedly. One of them will have to leave. He stopped. And after that, it'll be much easier to convince the one who remains to go back home. His face lit up. And finally, I'll be free again. He raised both arms. I'll be a free man again. He could already see his future. I'll be able to flirt with as many girls as I want. I can be with whoever I want. No commitments. Ataru clenched his fists. That's it. He smiled with renewed determination. Come on, Ataru. He started heading home. Don't let this destroy you. But as he approached the house, something caught his attention. Several enormous garbage bins stood in front of the house. They were completely full. Ataru stopped. What happened here? He slowly approached. Looks like they did a major cleaning. He lifted the lid of one of the bins. He looked inside and froze. His eyes widened. Among the garbage was his collection of magazines featuring naked women. Ataru desperately began pulling them out. What is this? He looked at one, then another. This one goes up to May. Another. June. Another. August. He put both hands on his head. September. He immediately understood. Why? The girls had found his collection while cleaning his room. And they had decided to throw it away. Ataru clenched his teeth. I can't believe this. He stormed into the house. But the moment he opened the door, he stopped dead. His entire plan had just collapsed before his eyes. Shinobu and Lum were in the kitchen, cooking together. The two girls were laughing and chatting peacefully, looking like lifelong friends. Mrs. Moroboshi stood beside them, giving them instructions as they prepared the meal. A little more of this, dear. Like this? That's perfect. Lum smiled. Ataru could hardly believe what he was seeing. Meanwhile, his father was sitting comfortably on a cushion beside the low dining table, settled on the tatami with a newspaper in his hands. He slowly looked up. He saw Ataru and lowered the newspaper slightly. Ataru? Ataru approached. Yes, Dad. His father glanced discreetly toward the kitchen, then back at his son. Come here. Ataru leaned closer. His father lowered his voice. Tell me something. He paused. What exactly do you think you're doing? Ataru immediately shook his head. What? His father gave him a knowing look. Are you living out your dream? Ataru looked desperately toward the kitchen. It's not what you think. His father glanced at the two girls again, then sighed. Ataru, you're very mistaken. Why? His father leaned a little closer. Those girls are going to control your entire life. Ataru's eyes widened. What? Your independence is over. His father spoke with the solemn certainty of a man passing down one of life's great truths. Believe me, with one strong-willed woman, a man's life can become a living hell. Ataru swallowed. And with two. His father stared directly at him. With two. He paused. There isn't even a word to describe the agony that awaits you. Ataru went pale. Then a cheerful voice came from the kitchen. Ataru, dinner's ready. The two girls appeared carrying the food. The aroma immediately filled the dining room. It was freshly prepared nikujaga, beef slowly simmered with potatoes, onions, and a savory soy-based sauce. Ataru's stomach growled. He placed a hand over his abdomen. He had been so worried all day that he had completely forgotten to eat. Shinobu placed the serving dish on the table. Lum arranged the plates. The two girls were radiant, happy, peaceful, and above all, perfectly coordinated. Ataru watched them. Then he looked at his father, then back at the girls, and finally he understood. This was no coincidence. Lum and Shinobu had reached some kind of agreement. They had stopped fighting. They had decided to cooperate. And Ataru had just discovered something he had never imagined. Living with two girls was not the dream he had always fantasized about. It was exactly the opposite. He would not be the man with two women under his control. He would be the man caught in the middle. The man trapped between two women who, working together, could control every aspect of his life. Ataru looked at his plate, then at Lum, then at Shinobu. Both girls smiled, and at the same time, they threw their arms around him. Completely overwhelmed between the two of them, Ataru collapsed inward on himself, shrinking where he sat. The end.